welcome to part 9 of our 5 tips series. 5 tips for managing your brand's social media presence. This is part 9 of our 5 tips series where I'll be sharing 5 tips each week that are helpful for businesses, small to medium-sized entities, artists, innovators, designers, photographers, filmmakers, and essentially anyone that has an idea and wants to create and protect it. I'll be sharing tips on how to level up and take your business or craft to the next stage, and most importantly, protect what you create. These tips were formulated from questions I am commonly asked and also from real-life client issues. If you missed the previous part, be sure to check it out on our YouTube channel, Teresa Kalu Law. This is the second to last part of this series, and if you have been following this series from the start, we hope that it has been useful. If you're now joining us, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you find this information to be helpful, and be sure to check out our previous parts of this series. This week, we're focusing on branding and social media use. Social media can be the most powerful tool a brand uses to expand its presence, but it can also quickly destroy a brand if proper policies and guidelines are not put in place. We are currently part of a cancel culture where consumers are using their influence and using social media to make brands accountable, not just for themselves but also for their employees. Brands therefore need to properly manage their social media presence to ensure that there is transparency and accountability. Here are my 5 tips to do this. Tip number 1. Implement a social media policy. Whether your brand has a social media presence or not, it is imperative to ensure your business has a clear and solid social media policy. This can help to protect your brand's image on social media. This policy will help to guide your business and any employees on how they should conduct themselves online, whether in a professional capacity or in a personal capacity. Previously, what employees did in their personal time was of little importance to businesses and their brands. However, with the publicity of social media, when employees post on their personal pages, their posts are sometimes considered to be a reflection of their employer and their brand. When we go on Facebook or LinkedIn, employees publicly declare who they are employed by. They take pictures in company uniforms that bear the company's brand, and sometimes they even check in on social media at their workplace. If we look at the concept of social media influencing, it is easy to see why employees are sometimes connected with their company's brand image. It is therefore advised that businesses use social media policies to be clear on the business's position on various issues and their zero tolerance policy on certain types of online content. This policy can set the standard on what is expected at every level in a company and can also be a reminder to the executive and to the employees that even in their personal lives, they can be considered to be a representative of the company and inadvertently affect its brand image. Social media can also be a risk to companies' exposure to leaked confidential information, oversharing of companies' internal affairs, infringement of rights, and susceptibility to compromise social media accounts. Important issues to address in your social media policy include what type of content is not tolerated by the business, who is allowed to have access to the business's social media accounts, what type of content should be posted, is there an approval system in place before something is posted on the business's official accounts, what type of information is restricted from being shared on social media, how often are passwords to official accounts changed, who has access to said passwords, and restrictions on posting infringing content, and the list goes on. These are some of the issues that should be addressed in a social media policy. You would also need to be clear on what action will be taken where there is a breach of the policy. Clear and concise social media policies can go a long way to protecting your business's brand image and to ensuring that your brand is not misrepresented in a negative light. Ensure your policy is constantly reviewed and updated and properly highlighted to your employees. Tip number 2. Sensitize and train employees. Managing your social media presence isn't just about trying to have a good image online. This image should be a true reflection on your brand and its identity. The groundwork therefore starts with the persons you hire to work for your business that inadvertently represents your brand. How many times have you received undesirable service online from a company and left with a negative impression of the company and its brand? This may not be a proper picture of the company itself, as it may just be the result of one person representing the company. However, it does not change the fact that it affects the company's image. It is therefore important to sensitize your employees to certain issues, whether through regular meetings or through different articles shared with your employees. It is important to not just discuss work-related information or training with your employees, but also to have discussions on important social and sometimes controversial topics such as race, religion, and politics. It is imperative that you create a culture of respect for everyone in your workplace and ensure that employees as well as management are not tone deaf on certain issues. Let them feel comfortable to raise issues they face personally and share those experiences with their peers. Establish watchwords that reflect what your brand stands for, whether it's diversity, respect, integrity. Ensure that this is translated to your employees. This can go a long way in creating a workforce that reflects the values of your brand. And so when they do anything in their personal lives, it also reflects well on your company's brand. Tip number 3. Lead by example. Just training your employees about what they should and should not do is not enough. As a business and brand, you need to put into action what you are asking your employees to do. You can't have diversity as a watchword and then don't have a diverse staff. You can't demand respect from employees if the business does not treat them with the same respect. Ensure that your brand's values and identity is properly reflected online in its social media presence. The brand should not just have a social media presence to help grow its following, but also to help promote social issues, to give back in whatever way, and to contribute in some way to the online community, whether it's through education or through support of causes that align with your brand's identity. The business should ensure that the standard and quality for content shared online properly aligns with exactly what that brand represents. Tip number 4. Have a contingency plan. Even if you implement the previous tips, there's always still the possibility that your brand may inevitably run into issues online. It is therefore important to have a contingency plan. Where a company that is slow to react to a public issue online, this can really affect the brand's image. This is why a contingency plan should be carefully outlined. The company should decide who is in charge of reacting, what approvals are needed to respond, how quickly should the business respond, what are the protocols in place to reduce legal liability in the event, and what can be done to help protect the brand's identity. The plan should outline how much will be shared online and the type of responses that can be done. Where the backlash is due to the fault of an employee, the contingency plan should also address what action will be taken against said employee. This is one aspect that is constantly monitored. The public is always interested in how the business is going to deal with the issue, as merely making a public statement is not usually sufficient. Tip number 5. Disciplinary action. As I said earlier, businesses and brands need to be accountable and transparent to the public. When a business runs into issues publicly, the public usually wants more than just an apology. They want action, and they want to know how the company plans on handling the situation. It is therefore advised that businesses have guidelines on disciplinary action. The business should let employees know which actions have consequences and what these consequences are. This firstly acts as a deterrent for employees, and it also helps the business to avoid legal action where proper steps are not taken. We all see the calls for employees to be fired for posting offensive content online. Unfortunately for businesses, this process is not so simple, and so they should ensure that they put proper steps in place to be followed so that they can handle the process properly. Firstly, the disciplinary action taken needs to be fair. The business should put in place a procedure that is consistent with the Industrial Relations Act of Trinidad and Tobago. Employees are entitled to a fair hearing, and so you need to ensure the employee gets a fair chance to be heard on the issues. Secondly, you should have a fair way to determine what disciplinary action will be taken. Despite calls for an employee to be fired, a business should be careful and ensure that the action is proportionate to what is done. The business should include in its guidelines, therefore, the factors to be considered when determining what disciplinary action should be taken. It is important to handle this issue very carefully to ensure that you are accountable and transparent to the public, but also fair to the employee. Those are my 5 tips for today. I hope it helps businesses to protect their brands and their social media presence so that they can strengthen their brand value and contribute positively to the online community. We hope that this series has truly been helpful for everyone that tuned in. After our 5 tips series, we will be continuing with educational videos and articles, as well as our online pro bono IP clinic. So stay tuned until next time.